phone off.
Gotcha. Oh, it's on. I'm doing it on my phone.
Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Women Are Worthy show. How you doing? I hope you had a great weekend. I'm doing wonderful because I'm sure you guys want to know how I'm doing. Well, before we start, I'd like to start off with general housekeeping. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yep, we got YouTube. Our YouTube channel, which is the Women Are Worthy Network. Our our Instagram and our Facebook page is the Women Are Worthy Show. Tonight's show is brought to you by PCT Disinfecting. Now, let me tell y'all something. You know, because of COVID and what's going on, this company is phenomenal. You can reach out to RJ Patel or Asha Patel at 404-630-6998. I'm letting y'all know I do not have sponsors that I don't believe in, because if I'm gonna spend money, or if they're gonna spend money with me, I want to make sure that they're legit. PCT Disinfecting, they're too legit to quit. I'm telling y'all, they clean the chamber. They've done so many phenomenal things. If you want to find out more about them, you can go on their website, which is pctdisinfecting.com. pctdisinfecting.com. Now I'm done with general housekeeping. So on to the rest of the show. Well, tonight I want you guys to meet Justin Simmonds. Now, listen to me. I like Stan Lee. There's people who like Marvel, and some people like the other kind that I'm not going to mention. Can't mention this. But we have this gem. We have so many jewels in Cobb County. So we have the honor today of speaking with Justin Simmonds. Now, he's a comic book creator, and check this out. He's Cobb County's comic book creator. Try saying that 3 times. Look, I'm not trying to bite my tongue. So we're going to be talking about, he's our secret solution, and I'm telling y'all, he is the answer. He didn't pay me to say this. He is the answer to Stan Lee. Stan Lee is gone. I know he's blushing when I say this, but I'm telling y'all, you've got to check this man out. So we want to give a warm welcome to Mr. Justin Simmonds. So we want to welcome you to the Women Are Worthy show, Cobb County solution to Stan Lee. Yes, I said it. Yes, I did. Hello, Justin.
Hello, Jackie. Thank you, and the honor is all mine. I assure you.
Well, let's get into the whole Cobbzilla, because no one really, as a kid, you read Marvel, and we're not going to talk about the other one, DC. We're not going to talk about that. But I want to know from you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got started, because this is your platform. I am so intrigued by you. It's ridiculous. I was in Kennesaw. I'm walking, minding my own business, and lo and behold, what do I see? A photograph of you. I'm like, what is he? He's all the way down here. What is he doing up here? I mean, you are our own jewel, and we have to let it out. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Justin.
Yeah, well, originally I'm from Queens, New York.
Wait a minute. You from the New York. Give me a
Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
Yeah, so, originally from Queens, first generation American. My mom's actually from England. My grandmother's but my heritage is Jamaican on my mom's side. My dad's American, and his side's, American. So, my parents met, in the late 80s. I was born, 92. Moved to Georgia right after 9/11, which is my mom's birthday. So about like a week or two afterwards, we were on our way down. My uncle uh, had lived on Spring Street, and he had already been talking to us about coming down. So 9/11 was kind of the nail in the coffin, and just kind of been here ever since. With going back and forth to New York because my father and my other family was still there as well. So that's just kind of really more so on where I'm from. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk about do you understand Jamaican?
To an extent. It's one of those things where it's like I do, like when my family's talking. We actually went to Jamaica back in 2016. It was my great grandmother, my uncles, my mother, and my sisters and my cousins, and my we went to the house where my great grandmother was born. Her father had built this house. And I'll never forget this. Like, there was just this one time we went, like, we're driving in Linstead, and we go out to the markets, and this dude's like selling, like, he's like a vendor, like a street vendor, and he's selling like bananas and like candies and all this kind of stuff. But he's just going. He's going. He's just like, and I couldn't understand the word he was saying. Pick up little bits and pieces, but he was also like rhyming it too. Like, I mean, in New York, you got like those creative kind of vendors. So this guy was doing that, but he was doing it all in patois. So it was like, yo, and it was hilarious. It was such a funny experience. So the answer to that question is kind of like a yes and no, depending on what you're saying and how thick it is and how fast.
So if I say to ya yadi, you know what I mean when I say that?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Jamaican too. That's why.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
So how did you, a little brown baby, growing up to be a young man, how did you get into comics? How did you, because I know growing up. Go ahead.
My dad is a huge nerd. I love him for it. When I was a kid, whenever, I would spend time with my dad and my grandma, in New York, you go to we'll go to like the laundromats, right? So my grandma would buy me like Spider-Man pop-up books, and I'm pretty sure she still has them too. And I was just so infatuated. And my dad, we would watch, Blade and Spawn, and those were like the hot movies at the time. And we'll like anything action movie, anything like kung fu fight and any kind of crazy outlandish thing. That's my dad, 100%. And he indoctrinated me into that, and that just kind of became our thing. To the point to where it's like my dad and I would just like shout random movie quotes, and like, which one is it? Guess which one that is. So, so definitely my dad who got me into comic books for sure.
So, and because you're a great, I don't know if it's called graphic artist. I don't know if that's what you call it, because I mean, your whole, the persona and what you're doing is so positive, and I love what you're doing. So for those, how did you get into it? Okay, your dad introduced you to it. So how did you take it to that next level? Because Justin, let's face it, so many times, or in a space of our lives, we want to do things, but we don't see people like us doing it. So how did you morph into this phenom? How did you do this?
Well, so it's I remember my first comic book that I ever got. I actually still have it. It's X-Men issue 183, I believe it is. It's The Death of Colossus. My auntie Ami, my mother's best friend, had given that to me, and this was like during a time where like, comic book speculation was like, hold on to this because it's going to be worth a lot one day, So when she gave me that book, I thought it was just like so cool. And then I started to kind of accrue more books, for during like the holidays. I was always into drawing, so I guess like that was just like the obvious thing to get me besides pencils and paper. So that's just kind of how like the comic book thing, how the comic book interest started. But I love the artwork. I never really got into reading them until I was in like middle school. I got into actually reading the stories that they were, and so that's kind of how I got into comic books up until like the 7th grade, and that's when I met my best friend Brendan Sellers. He's actually like, we have been friends. We met over comic books. Our entire relationship has been based in comic books, and the comic book that was published last year was he and I. So we had started My Invaders. This was our whole thing since the 7th grade. So I guess if I hadn't have met him, I probably would not have been so into making them, so to speak. It was just that not too often does somebody really realize or know what they want to do, especially from the age of 11. And from 11, that's all I've ever wanted to do, was just to draw and make comic books. I tried everything else, hate it, don't want to do it.
And this is what so let me ask you a question. Of all the comic books that are out there, what comic book that is one of your favorites? Let's go with that question first. Of all the DC and all the others, what comic book, if that's the case, which one do you like?
Specific title? Are we talking about like just like book in and of itself? Like what's like my favorite?
Book in of itself and the graphic artist of it, the art, the drawing of it.
That's a tough one.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm called Jackie Charles.
That's a tough one. So, oof. Can I give like multiple answers? Can I do that?
Two answers. You can only give two answers.
Two answers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Still tough. Still tough. Um, my favorite drawn comic book would have to be Conan the Barbarian by
Okay.
John Buscema and Roy Thomas. Roy Thomas's uh, literature, like his writing and storytelling on Conan was just it's not many books make you can really get like a
True.
physical reaction
True.
out of somebody, you know. So it's like when I read Conan the Barbarian, it gives me I get a physical reaction out of it. You know, I something's funny, I laugh. Something's terrible, I'm like, shocked. So it really gets like a genuine reaction out of me, and I always enjoy reading them. And John Buscema's artwork, paired with that, it's like truly being transported. To me, those guys were like the dynamic duo of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It was just if I don't want to touch Conan unless it's Roy Thomas and John Buscema. That's how I feel about it. For my second book, um, that's actually tough, but actually, you know what? Not my favorite book is actually a book that I just recently found out last year, and it's a comic book from 1947 called All Negro Comics #1.
Oh wow.
And this is the first comic book to ever be published by all black publishers and drawn by all black artists. And they only got one book off the ground, because it was
Mm-hmm.
the 40s and they had a lot of hurdles to kind of get through. But I found out about that book last year, and it just kind of blew my mind, that because you don't really hear too much about that kind of history, like you
Right.
like especially in regards to like black history. We hear about the the inventors and like the entrepreneurs to a certain extent, or just people that have done very bold things in the society that they were in. But I never knew anything related to my field, in Black history until I found All Negro Comics, and I thought
Wow.
that was really, and so that book, even though it's a new book that I've discovered, it is an inspiration to me because it tells me, even as a young Black man today, even with more tools available, um, it's a spirit, it's a spirit. I'm carrying on a legacy, from a time where it wasn't, where it was difficult to even just get one book out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a book and title that I hold with pride. And I could have bought the damn thing for 1,200 bucks and let it slip through my fingers. So I'm pissed off about it, but I'll find it one day.
I'm not even gonna go there with you, but you're pissed off, so I don't even have to go there because I don't need to be harder on you. Okay, so what comic book out there that if you had the opportunity, if there was an opportunity to turn back time and it was presented to you that you would have liked to, you know what, I want to do this. Let's say Stanley, let's say for example, my thing would be I remember back in the day, I don't know if you remember, there was some things with Bruce Lee. There was a comic book with Bruce Lee. And
Oh
I wish
wow.
yeah, back in the day, I wish I could have done that because my brother had so many comic books and I would read them. My older brother, I would just read them. And it was to the
Nice.
point where he would grab them away from me and what are you doing touching my comic books? That kind of thing. So, what
Yeah.
comic book out there that you like that we can all relate to that you wish that either you created it, or if someone brought it to you and say, here's for example Spider-Man, do what you want to do with it. Can you think
Oh,
of one?
oh man. That'd be great. I've never been asked that question before.
I'm
I would
Jackie
want to go back.
Charles, I'm telling you.
So I wouldn't travel that far back in time. I would actually go back to okay, two things.
Okay.
Number one, I would love to be in the Marvel bullpen in the 60s. So when Stan Lee first came out with Fantastic Four and was kind of doing all like
Yes.
when Fantastic Four was first invented, when Spider-Man was first invented, that 10 years of Marvel, I would have loved to have been in those offices at that point in time. Secondly, I would have loved to be in New York in the 90s. I was one at the time when this was going on, but Milestone Entertainment. And they're the entertainment group that brought Static Shock, very very known in my generation, but Static Shock, Icon, and I can show it to you actually. They're all on the wall. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, of course. Give us a
Okay.
tour. Why not? I'm telling you guys, he is phenomenal. His artwork, you gotta get a hold of his comics. I'm telling you, his artwork is really, really good.
Yeah, so Hardware, Icon, Blood Syndicate, and Static Shock. So this was in the 90s. Milestone Media. This is DC Comics.
Mm.
So basically a group of black men, um Dwayne McDuffie, Dennis Cowan, and two other gentlemen whose name escaped me, forgive me. Um, but they wanted to do stories, for us by us. They kind of wanted to, because black characters up until that point in time were one dimensional, and because there were so
Mhm.
few and far between, one character was pretty much the basis for every black person. People that weren't around black people, they got their what's the word, their peak at the black identity through this one particular character. But I mean, black people are as nuanced as the grains of as the blades of grass, and there's just a lot, just as in with anybody else.
Mhm.
So Milestone, these guys set out to basically, fix that problem, and they created their own universe, with predominantly black characters. And I would have loved to have, been in that room and just kind
Right.
of been in that office at that time and said, hey, you want to draw this issue of Static Shock or Icon? Yeah, totally.
Well, I think that's what you're doing now because you're creating this and there's a huge buzz around you. Because I remember back in the day, my brother, I remember he wanted to rip my head off because I lost his Jim Kelly. I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh, I
Jim Kelly's
love Black
comic
Star
book.
Jones.
Yes. I told you I'm authentic. I know what I'm talking about. And he wanted to rip my head off because
I don't
I
blame him.
lost his I lost this Jim Kelly comic book. I don't know what I did with it, or I think I spilled
Mm-mm.
water on it on purpose and
Oh,
threw it away.
oof,
Because, this
oof.
is around the time with his G.I. Joes. So comic book has been something for me. And I remember, when they finally came out with the Wonder Woman or
Mm,
Superwoman and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
and Black Panther. I
yeah.
remember those things. My brother, my brother and I would talk about it. My husband, he's a comic book geek. Okay,
Yeah.
if I was in the home studio, he would be all over this. He'd probably push me away just to ask you questions. But so where do we go from here? Because where do you go from here? Like, what do you have on the horizons? What you're doing? What's going on?
Sure, yeah. Sure. So I just finished my first book, my Invader Comics first encounter. And this was kind of like my quarantine project, wanted to get something out. Cobbzilla had gotten a lot of buzz in the year prior. So, with everything kind of being shut down, it's like, okay, so how do I kind of, tell people I don't just make posters, I do comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So that was out. So what's next is the Cobbzilla graphic novel. So that's the next thing. That's where all of my energy is going into right now, is designing characters, getting the story and plot lines together. I'm gonna be scouting for some more talent because I want to draw it, but I don't know if I'm going to have the same kind of time to color it. I wanted to kind of come out within the year, or kind of come out when it comes out, but I don't want people to wait too long for it. So that's just kind of where I'm at now. I have a plan for the next 5 books, and basically what it is that I'm going to do and what it is that people can expect out of Mind Invader Comics is not only just a peek into my imagination, because I've been sitting on like these concepts for 10 years now since I've graduated, and I view Marietta differently. And everyone has their own view of Marietta. But when I see Marietta, I see just like this like this Disneyland of like science fiction. It's so hard to describe it. I have to show it to you, and the only way, for a person to understand how I see Marietta is to read the books. So, the next 5 books are basically going to be a chronicling of the Mind Invader coming to
Mhm.
Marietta
Wow.
and changing the status quo completely. So there's going to be giant chickens running around, zombified people, mind slaves, Sasquatch walking around. There's going to be a lot of different things, a lot of interesting things. And a lot of it's going to feature the people of the town. I'm going to throw my friends in it. I'm going to throw, I mean, anyone who's made an impact, who has, and I don't want to just say anyone who's made an impact, because I feel like everyone that I know, their personalities are just so phenomenal. Like all my friends, whether it's at the bar, my job, hanging out at Cool Beans, everyone that like I know, they are they they're perfect. And it's like I want to be able to share how I feel about them in my books, showing them
Oh.
how awesome their personalities are, and how, they're kind of on this wild adventure with me, and so that's the best way I can put it. I'm no writer by any means, but so my me trying to express myself isn't the best way. I do that visually.
Rick Wayne wants to know if you didn't become an artist, what do you think you'd be doing?
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I actually have a little book from high school of like the different things that I wanted to do. So I've thought of Jesus Christ. I really don't know what I'd do, to be honest with you. I'd probably have to do something with traveling, maybe therapy, like a therapist.
Hmm.
Um But the thing is, I've tried everything. I was an ice cream man. I was a salesman. I worked in kitchens. I've had a lot of different jobs, and I hated all of them. So I think I'm supposed to be an artist.
You found your niche, and that's like me. Like someone says, well, if you weren't, being a host or talking to people, what would you do? I
Mm.
don't know about other people. I don't have a plan B. When I
Yeah,
left corporate
yeah,
America, this was it. I don't have a
right,
plan B because, some people said you should have a plan B, but I think if you have a plan B, and this is just me, if you have a plan B, that means you're expect to plan A not to work out. So you have
right.
plan B. So I put all my eggs in one basket. I'm
I
not
like
recommending that to anyone.
that.
I put all my proverbial eggs in or my proverbial mic into one
There
basket,
you go.
and that's it. So, I'm going to let this personality take me where it can take me and just
Absolutely.
keep it moving.
Oh yeah.
I have such a love for Cobb County. Particularly because left Jamaica, New York, and Brooklyn, and then coming here.
Mm,
I just love, it's one of the greatest counties for me. Of course, I
I
haven't
agree.
lived in other counties, but you have Marietta, you have the Marietta Square, you have the Big Chicken, you have Kennesaw, we have Ackworth, we have Austell, we have Powder Springs, we have such a what's the other county? This Smyrna, Vinings. We have so many things in without going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And a lot of people appreciate it, but I just have such a, it's like you cut me and I bleed Cobb County. Okay, I just love the county that I'm living in, and the people are phenomenal. Of course you have others, but at the end of the day, we moved here in '94, and I'm seeing such a
Mm,
difference. So I was
wow.
here,
Interesting.
saw the difference and
Yeah.
just the change, so to speak. Because at first I'm like, oh my God, where is everyone?
Oh
And
wow,
now it's
really?
like, can you guys leave?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I've noticed that kind of a change. I mean, in the past 10 years alone, I mean, because I moved to Marietta. So when we first moved to Georgia from New York, I lived on Windy Hill Road. So I was in Smyrna. So I went to, Belmont Hills Elementary and then like Campbell. So
Oh, you went to Campbell.
I went to Campbell
Yeah.
Middle School, yeah. So and then at seventh grade, second semester of seventh grade, we moved to Lemon Street actually, and that's where I went to Marietta Middle School and high school. Um, and complete change.
Mhm.
People say change is good. I'm picky about my change
Mhm.
personally.
So
But
am I.
Marietta in and of itself, I mean, I love Marietta. And I realize, even though it's like a big place, at least in this area, like I love the community of it. I love that you can go anywhere and you run into somebody and it's like so it truly is a place that feels like home. Like I love New York,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, and New York has a complete different energy and everything like that. But I don't know if I'd live there again. I feel like I have everything that I could possibly want and need in Marietta. And I know there's, someone watching this thing like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
That's
Marietta?
me.
Yeah.
I'm saying that right now. I'm saying that. What the hell are you talking about? I'm
No,
saying
well, I
that
mean,
right now.
I don't know because so Disney he lived in this little small town for a couple years, right? And it inspired it inspired his main street in like in Walt Disney World. Now, anyone correct me if I'm wrong, or I'll probably catch hell for this later because I have some friends who really are into Disney. So I don't want to say anything that's wrong, but Disney had this place that he held really near and dear to his heart, and he used that those emotions in a lot of his earlier movies and stuff. You know, and I guess maybe because I mean, I grew up watching a lot of Disney, Disney Channel and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I'm just like programmed to kind of like see a certain thing of like, what's the word? Kind of small township, you
Right.
know? It's just
Mhm.
there's to me there's just something mystical about small towns, whether it's ET, you know, uh, uh Mallrats, anything, there's just something mystical
Or
about
Mayberry, that kind of thing with Opie and all that kind of stuff. So
right,
yeah, I
right.
get it. I
So
get it. I get
you
it.
know
Mhm.
and I mean some of my favorite memories are here, and it's just that I just feel like Marietta has it. I mean, it ain't much, but it's an honest place, and I love
Mhm.
Marietta. I
Mhm.
wouldn't, I love Marietta. I don't know what else to say, you
And
know.
that's good because that's how I feel about where I am. So now, if there's a young kid out there who wants to get into comic books, who wants to be a creator, a graphic artist, how can they go about it? Because it's great that we can think we can do something, but
Mhm.
how do they get started?
So really, the easiest part about being a graphic artist is the drawing part. That's
Mhm.
the easiest part. The hardest part is the diligence. This like being a graphic artist, even though it's a fun job, quote unquote, it is probably one of the most mentally taxing things I've ever had to do. And because the reason why I'd say it's taxing is because you are literally playing God. You are creating something out of nothing. And to be able to recall certain nuances such as body language, or expressions, to be able to catch a mood of a certain sunset, to be able to capture that mood, encapsulate it in visual form, to then spur a reaction from that, you know. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but it's an aggravating thing. I've always said that for me, drawing was 70% staring at the paper, and 15% self-loathing and 15% actually doing the work, you know.
Wow. So let me ask you a question. I want to ask this. So is it harder for African Americans to get in it, or they don't, it's not that, it's basically the talent and the creativity? Is it
That's a
harder
good
for us to
question.
get
That's
into
a
it?
very good question. I've never personally tried to get into mainstream comics, it's very competitive. Everyone's trying to do it. Everyone is trying to do it. But Sanford Green told me this, and he said that this is the golden age of self-owned publishers. This is the golden age for it. We're at such a time right now where you can just do it yourself. You don't have to go and try to appeal to the bigger fish, because number one, not only is not only is it being sorry, not only is it being such a saturated market, you're literally giving up your own ideas to do
Mm-hmm.
somebody else's, to tell some.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's if you want to tell those stories, then sure, absolutely. But everyone's seen Wolverine. Everyone knows Spider-Man. Everyone
Right.
knows Superman. We've been doing that for 80 years now. So I wouldn't necessarily know if it's harder for African Americans to break into the business. Um, but to be honest with you, it probably wouldn't be because there's such a thirst in our own community for stories. I mean, even before Black Panther came out, when Black Panther came out, that was like
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
exponential growth of it was like, yo, yes, totally. That's what this feels like. More of that, please and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people out there booming and trying to get busy and trying to make it. But to be honest with you, the biggest obstacle, at least from where I'm sitting, is ourselves. And that's not just as black people. That's just as creatives, because there are so many different things that people get caught up in wanting to do. I'm on a couple of different Facebook groups and chat rooms because I just kind of want to be part of the community, kind of see what's going out there, what the competition's looking like, what kind of things haven't I thought of that that people are interested in. um but a lot of what it is that a lot of people spread themselves
Too
too
thin.
thin, and I've been a victim of that for up until this book. Up until this book, I couldn't tell you. I've got a lot of ideas. I got a lot of stories, a lot of things that I want to do. But the hardest thing is to sit down and to bust out just one,
And just
just
get it
one,
out. Just get.
just get it out, just get it out. It's the hardest thing, and yeah, it's the hardest thing. People self complicate. People self complicate.
Melissa asked, "Would you ever plan on opening up your own comic book shop in Marietta?" Think she lives in Marietta.
In Marietta, yeah, actually, I want to open up a few comic book shops. That's how I want to retire. Me and my buddy, we're gonna call it Shangri-La, and
Shangri-La.
so it'll be a comic book shop, but it'll also, and I don't know if I want to say it out loud because I don't know who's listening. I don't want anyone
Well,
stealing
just
my
keep it. Yeah,
IP.
you can keep that part.
But
We'll give
I got
when you're ready.
away because you know the coolest thing about comic book shops is going there. But from my personal experience, I want to read my comic. I sometimes to the point to where I read my comic as I'm driving home. Which is not safe at all. But it's like so my comic shop will be the answer, the solution to that dilemma.
Well, you said it's not safe, but it will be because someone will be driving while you're reading your
There you
comic
go.
book.
There you go.
Okay, so let
I'll
me
get my
clean that
girlfriend to
up.
do
Let
it.
me clean it up for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So, if let's say one of the community leaders were to approach you and gave you a $1 million check, how would you improve what you're doing or the comic book industry in Cobb County? Like,
Oh
if they were to
man.
say, okay, we want you to do this, we're investing in you, we know what you're doing. So it's not for just you putting in your pocket. You could take some out to pay yourself. But what would you do with 85% of the money in order to the improvement that you think is needed?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would have a lot of efforts that conjoin with the local universities. So Chattahoochee Tech, KSU, and KSU, the new campus that used to be Southern Poly.
Right.
I'll do a bunch of outreach for kind of basically create Marietta as like the next Savannah, that as like the next SCAD kind of hub. I mean, SCAD is the only place that really specializes in the sequential art form. So not a lot of people live out in SCAD, or sometimes
Right.
for some people, Atlanta is just a little too far away. So, I would love to be able to bring that to Marietta. I would also, one of the projects that I would do, I would actually, because Marietta is such a historic town, I would put forth an effort to kind of get some of that. history in the literary form, in a comic book form. So there's actually a
Oh.
lot of Black history here in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And no one really talks about it. No one really talks about it, and most people don't really know about it. And a lot of the neighborhoods, are all but gone and gentrified.
Mm-hmm.
The Hattie Wilson Library, which used to be the Black elementary school, that actually just reopened. I used to play in that library and learn there when I was a kid. So I'm happy to hear that they brought that back and that they've kind of like memorialized it in some sort of way. But to me, that's not enough. That's not enough. That's not enough. The people that went to that school are still here, and I feel like their story should be told. And I feel like the best way to tell that story, to tell all perspectives of Marietta, the best way to tell those perspectives is through the comic book form. So that would be a thing. Also, I'd make a Cobbzilla theme park. I would buy American Adventures and make a Cobbzilla theme park. And, for interns, for high school kids or summer jobs. Um, and yeah, and open up a studio. Open up a studio. My friend Hillary, her parents own like a studio spot on on 41. So I would just open up, Mind Invader Studios over there, which I plan to do anyway without $1 million. So
So you
look
mean a
out for that.
studio where people can come in, artists, young artists coming in drawing, or is a studio where we can just come in and like visit, look at some of your artwork?
Oh no, the former than the latter. I don't.
Okay.
I'm not gonna have a museum where people can just look at my. I'm not that.
You're too young. You're too young for
Yeah,
that right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
You're
Yeah,
too
we'll leave
young.
that for the next century or something like that. No, I would create the one thing that I want, and the one thing that like I really wish was more in Marietta. I tried to kind of tackle this. Wish there was a hub, for comic book artists. I wish there was more people making comic books in Marietta that had a place to be. I was doing art after dark at the Strand for a while, and I got a lot of artists. But I didn't. But very rarely would I get another comic book artist. I probably only met one true comic book artist at McCracken's one night, and the dude lives in like Philadelphia or something like that. So he didn't even live
Wow.
here. So so yeah, I definitely would create a studio. And kind of bring some of that in here instead of having to go out.
What would you like your legacy to be? Take another swig of that drink because I'm telling you, I'm bringing you the questions. I'm bringing the questions.
That's a good question. Mm, my legacy, I would just want it to be that he made it happen. He put his mind to it. He was this young Black dude, and he did the damn thing. And he got out there and he made a change. He did something. He
And you
brought
are
something
doing the
new. He
damn
brought
thing.
something new, kind of like Footloose. I want to be like the Footloose of Marietta. That's what I want to be. Kevin Bacon in Marietta. There it is. There it is.
And you
There
are
it is.
doing the damn thing. And I want people to know that they could follow you on IG as mine_invader_comics, COMIX. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, yeah, I
Yes,
got
ma'am.
it. Told you I was gonna do it. So we want people to definitely to check you out, and also on Facebook, you're Mind Invader Comics, COMICS.
Hmm.
COMICS, like comic book but comics.
Yes.
You've just been such a pleasure talking to that we definitely gonna have to bring you on. If you have
Thank you.
anything, Justin, that you want us to post on our page, to follow up with, please send it to us if you're going
Absolutely.
to be at a certain location, because we welcome you into the Women Are Worthy tribe. Because Women Are Worthy, I created a platform to shine a spotlight on people who are doing phenomenal things. And I'm doing that because I get sick and tired of when I'm talking to, younger kids, they're talking about Beyonce and Jay-Z's their role model. When
Yeah.
we have people who are Beyonce's and Jay-Z's in our community, what I mean is they're doing phenomenal things, but they just need some spotlight, or
Thank you.
people in that their arena may know what they're doing, but someone may not. So I created this because whether you've gone from hell and back, we want to talk to people. Tomorrow night, we're going to be speaking with Dolores E. Jordan. Dolores E. Jordan, she's an author. a motivational coach. She happens to be Michael Jordan's sister. And when I say this lady has a story, she has a story. What doesn't kill you makes. Yep. Oh, that's what everyone says. He has siblings. He has other siblings. And what I like about her, she doesn't ride his coattails. She became the captain of her own ship, master, she's just a phenomenal lady. But when I say she went through hell, she went through hell. And no one talks about, like, if your sibling becomes famous and then the news media comes to you because they're just asking you stuff. They want to know. And to see how she avoided certain things, but she went through a lot. And to see now, looking at this woman, how she's triumphed over the adversities, it's going to be a phenomenal show. So I guess I won't put my lashes on because I may cry, So she's going to share her backstory with us, but we're not going to delve into, is Michael this? Is Michael that? Is Michael? Yeah. No, it's her story. She just happens to be his sister. So we want to talk about, because sometimes the siblings are overlooked. And you don't know, when you're a celebrity, you don't know what your sibling is going through. It's almost like the Jessica Simpson and her sister. It's almost like those sibling kind of things that happen. Yeah. So, we want to thank you, Justin, for being on the show. You're an awesome guest. Welcome to the Women Are Worthy tribe. We welcome you into our tribe. And honor. Let us know if there's anything we can do. Do you have any lasting thoughts, or do you have any lasting any last comments, or of something that you're doing that you would like people to purchase, a product, or what is it that you'd like to leave our folks with?
If anyone's ever interested in getting anything Mind Invader or Cobbzilla-esque, go to mindinvadercomics.com, and that's where all my merch is. We actually just got some new Cobbzilla stickers in, so I'm going to be working on getting those to you guys soon. And I just appreciate any and all support that I get. I mean, it blows my mind that I'm even here right now. It blows my mind. It never ceases to surprise me that people actually give a crap about what I'm doing.
We do, and it's mindinvader.com.
Mindinvadercomics.com.
Comics.com. Is it comics with this X or comic books?
CS.
Okay, so I'm doing it. That's your website. So I posted it, www.mindinvadercomics.com. So we definitely posted that. So let us know again, because I know you're gonna blow up, because you're already blowing up. What's happening? You're in the pot right now, and it's boiling, and you're waiting for it to get to that boil where we have to remove the lid. So you're doing some great things. I love how you have like the big chicken kind of thing. I love that. Love that. So,
thank you.
Again, we want to wish everyone a motivational Monday. Make sure you mask up, you sanitize, because COVID is still out there. Absolutely. Make sure you're doing social distancing. Tune into the Women Are Worthy show tomorrow, but we're going to be on our YouTube channel, which is the Women Are Worthy Network. We're going to be speaking with, again, Miss Dolores E. Jordan. Phenomenal. We had a phenomenal guest. I'm telling you, we're bringing our A game. Our guests have been just fabulous. This is if I wasn't watching this show, I'd watch this show, okay? Because you know what? I like this personality, and I love the guests. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Have a terrific Tuesday. No matter where you feel that you are in life, just know you can do the damn thing. You can do anything you put your mind to it, as long as you have the right tribe behind you. You have to have the right tribe. And again, if you want to be part of our tribe, you must subscribe. I can't go with that duty.
I like that.
So have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye, Justin. Great seeing you.